together. Across the world we've grown, through blooms and roots and seasons. You've made this place a home. Your kindness lifts my spirit, your passion lights the way. With every word, every moment shared, you brighten up my day. Through the struggles and successes, we are here, supporting, showing care sincere. Every orchid blooms brighter with your support. You're the heart of this journey, my constant resource. You're simply the best.
Hey everyone!
Better than all the rest.
Better than all the rest. Hello!
Incredible friends. Together we rise through the lows and the
Way to go, DeAndre. I love hearing that.
You help the orchids
I hope at least some of the music played. I have to stay muted.
Sending videos far and wide. You're more than just a
I'm getting hot.
You're my family worldwide. Through the messy, tough challenges,
All the
we
tension was released
celebrate
in
the
leading up
wins.
to a live stream.
With your support, no dreams too big. It's where the magic begins. From the roots to
macho.
the blooms, through the rain and the sun.
We have a packed schedule,
Have been here, battles
so
of
let's
fun.
hope it goes well. The shaking
Love
stops.
for orchids keeps me inspired. You're the spark in my world, the fuel I've required. You're simply the best, better than all the rest. Amazing, inspiring, incredible friends.
Linda,
Together
we're
we
coming to you
rise
straight away.
through the lows and the
Just in case
highs.
hubby
Broken
has something
angels,
planned for you.
you help the orchids thrive. We've built this together. It's more than a channel. It's a haven for growers, a place to dismantle
Woo.
doubts and fears.
Bit heavy on the
replace
blush.
them with dreams. With every orchid, we're
Where's my makeup
stronger
artist
as a
when you need
team.
her?
You're simply the best, better than
E.S.
all the
Anya.
rest.
Servus.
Oh,
well, no. Hi, from Berlin. ESC 2025? No, Anya is Munich. Hey, Portugal. Hola, Fernanda. Buenas noches, Orchid Ninjas. Bruce.
My gratitude true.
ESC 2025. I don't know what that is, Anya.
Through orchids
Maybe
and
we shouldn't
life,
have had
let's
coffee
share
before this
every
stream.
test.
It's gonna be a breathy
Orchid
one.
ninjas,
Mr. Kyle.
simply
Hey,
the best.
we still have to set up a date. It's good to have you all here. Thank you so much for taking time out of your Saturday. I appreciate you so much. I always get so worked up before a stream, and I know I'm repeating myself, but woo! You know, whether there's somebody here or not, it doesn't matter. It's like an hour before, it's like, oh, everything rises. And I think I'm a bit heavy on the, when my daughter's not around, you know, the makeup gets a little bit heavy because I'm somewhat blind. How do you do makeup without glasses? Anyway, right, we have a pretty packed schedule tonight. And I want to first of all say thank you, Julian, very much for the heads up. My title had January, the thumbnail had February. So if anybody was confused by that, I do apologize. I don't know what I would do without Julian. Appreciate the heads up. European Song Contest. We should all participate. We should have a Ninja Orchids choir. Can you imagine? With the delays in between what I'm saying and what you're hearing when you hear it in real time, that would be hilarious. I know another creator started a choir, and I was listening to that while watering my orchids once. I would just crack me up because they have a delay. So when they had the words and the music, the creator would sing, a few seconds later, the others would chime in. It was hilarious. Anyway, so if any of those, I don't think they would watch, but if you do, Clip Clop Choir, we miss you. You were always good for a wonderful time. Anywho, Joe, happy birthday to you. I am so sorry that you are, well, for moi, I am not sorry that you're here. I think it's great that you're here, but I know you had better plans. So I hope that by the time you get to fulfill your birthday wish and go and check your nursery out, that you will find exactly what you are looking for. But it is wonderful to have you here. Birthday little bubbles and what you call it, confetti in the chat for Joe. Happy birthday. Yeah, well, your version, that's right. Sorry. You see, I need Julian in my life every day. But that's in May, isn't it? Anyway, never mind. We have a packed schedule. So I hope I'm going to get my act together correctly. I'm going to shut down all my other things so that we have a good stream. I had rain all night. The router reset itself 3 times during the day. I hope it's settled down now. So what I want to do is show you and get your eyes on something that Linda sent to me. Yes, a runny nose. Sorry, a runny nose is something else that has, I have a little bit nervous tics when things come. The eyes start watering, the nose starts running. All the things happen. So forgive me. Right. So we had something from Linda that she sent me a while ago, which I am going to open up because I promised her I would show it if she would give me permission, and she has. And get your take on this, because not just comments from, our videos would make it into a stream, but if there's somebody that would like to have more eyes on a situation with their orchid, we can do that as well. And if I don't get through all the comments, I can carry them over into a March stream, which, as always, the last Saturday of every month. So let's do this. Let's settle down. The dogs have settled down. Okay. Right. So what we've got going on here, clearly that is a Phalaenopsis. And Linda's concern was that this was sunburn initially. So she had recently watered it, etc., and eventually the spotting showed up. The temperatures are favorable, even though I thought on initial inspection it was cold damage. So that's one. Here's another picture. We could also assess maybe there is some magnesium deficiency, but it's too evenly spread out. And the reason I assessed this as cold damage, even though her temperatures were favorable throughout, she is an indoor grower. As you can see, she's growing in a bark mix, is because of my summer blooming Phalaenopsis. When they have cold damage, they look exactly like that, and the cells are oversaturated. And maybe you saw my video where I could show you how the liquid goes through the cell structures without bursting through the cuticle unless you squeeze really hard, and then you can see the stomata and hydrothodes release the liquid, as opposed to a cold damaged leaf or an old leaf, where it just snaps because it's old and still firm. So I'm just going to go through and show you the other first set of pictures that she sent me, just to give you an idea. And I'm not able to see chat at the moment, so I'm looking this way. I'm looking at my other device. I don't need makeup, oh baby. Mwah. J'adore. Thank you. It was starting to get out of control. I had to do an emergency watering for fungus gnats on the... Okay, the Diefenbachia. Oh, yes. So they do like their humidity, and with that come fungus gnats. And something just flew by me. Did you send one over, Joe? Huh. All right, have you tried mosquito bit tea for your fungus gnats? Question. You're planning on getting a... Yes, to celebrate. And I hope that you will get that. And I hope that you're having a good day, Joe. It's not the same. That's right. I'm always surprised to see North Africa, but hey, who knows? All righty. Nightbot has joined the crew as well. This looks bacterial. Okay, this is one and the same Phalaenopsis, if I didn't make that clear. And thank you to Linda for keeping us on top with her comments. bacterial comes after some form of damage. It can't be bacterial for that to happen. Something happened to then possibly cause bacteria to take over. It's always like post damage is when you get bacteria and or fungi. So nobody needs makeup, but it's fun. Yes, it is when you know how. Clearly, I've lost. I've lost the way of how to. I can barely put my lipstick on without going whoop. Mosquito bits and neem oil. Okay, good. I have a sticky traps and electronic bug catcher for the adults. Okay, good stuff. Alrighty. So for me, somehow this orchid, maybe without knowing, maybe I can't exactly say overwatering, but maybe there was a coincidence. This orchid had some form of cold exposure. It could have been just an hour. If an orchid is not hardened off and used to cold temperatures like my phals are, then this can happen. Now, what we're going to do, however, but wait, there's more. Let me open the next one because Linda was kind enough to send me updated pictures. So we're going to open those so that you can see. And Linda, your commentary is appreciated because it kind of threw me for a loop, this, seeing as when I read the temperature conditions, I just thought, yeah, no, then it doesn't make sense. Where are we? What am I? Okay, maybe I need to not confuse myself. Those were the first ones. Okay, now, because they look very similar, Linda, so I just got thrown for a loop there. Okay. So the leaves fell off, as you can see, and we are back to the same thing. Now, if Linda had sent me this one at first, I would have said, that is the start of sunburn. This patch right here, I would have said, yes, that is the start of sunburn, but the two look very, very different. And Linda told me that in order to test this out, she did then expose this to some sun, but not for long. Let me double check the text, but not for long. And then this happened. To understand if heat from the sun could be involved, I placed the orchid very briefly in the same place and position in the late afternoon near sunset. So the light through the window hit the lower leaf underneath. A ver, let's go to the lower leaf. There. Underneath. And the upper leaf on the top. Gotcha. It just caught the edge of the leaf that showed damage much later. And because this just doesn't look like the typical sunburn, could it have experienced heat that would cause it? It felt warm to my hand, but not hot. This is strange to me. So let's see what you have to say. Sunnyside, hello. I do appreciate you popping in. Thank you so much. I do not expect anybody to stay. I'm just so glad to see you, you know, bounce, 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 that thing. Thank you. I appreciate you. And thank you for the thumbs up as well. I'm here. Nightbot keeps hiding my greeting. Why is Nightbot hiding your greeting? I'm going to have to check out what Nightbot is up to. The first time Nightbot was activated many moons ago, it was deleting comments with emojis in it, which is crazy because I changed that. So check Nightbot. I can't do that now, Debbie, but I will. Sorry that Nightbot has an issue with you. Thank you for being here. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're getting some rest and some relief. That's my version of R&R, rest and relief. Not Rolls Royce, but rest and relief. How's the clinic operating? Can you upload photos of your plant? You cannot upload photos right here of your plants, but you are welcome to send me an email if that is what you would like to do. However, I have a schedule tonight, HW, so these comments coming in right now, we can address at the end of the stream, if that's okay with you. If you would like to have that included in March, let me know, but you're welcome to send me an email so that we can, let me type that in, so that we can have a look. All right. The ads do start playing during the stream, yes. Thanks to YouTube. Even if you take the function off, which I do not allow ads on my streams. I do not personally activate them. And YouTube throws them in anyway. Very, very annoying. And I'm very, very sorry. Thank you, Sunny, for supporting me that way by watching the replay and letting the ads play. It's hiding them visually with the ad, Macho. Okay, sorry. Anyway, so what I'm seeing here is looking at this way, I would say this one, yes, has sunburn. The previous leaves we saw, there was something else going on. There must have been some kind of a drop in temperature, and even unbeknownst, somewhere something happened, a cold draft after watering, and the cells were saturated, and with that caused cell collapse. I have in the description of this stream linked the cold damage on Phalaenopsis leaves video. As with every question I'm addressing today, it's all already linked in the description. If you would like to, at any given point in time, check the description and see which video you would like to come up with. Linda, I'm not sure if this is helpful at all. If it's causing more confusion, this is the last thing I want. So Linda says the current picture is the remaining 2 leaves. You're very welcome, HW, and I appreciate you being here. Thank you. The current picture is the remaining 2 leaves 2 weeks after the most damaged leaves fell off. But the leaf is looking healthier. It's got a more consistent green to it. I think you should be okay. The crown doesn't look in any way, shape, or form affected. Let's check the stem again. I don't see any issues there. It'll be interesting to continue following this. There's one thing though, Linda, if I may say, when I saw this image earlier, cut it all the way down below the last node, because your orchid may think, you know what, I'm not feeling too good. I might be on the way out. I'm going to branch. And that little node is looking very, very inviting and chubby. It could be the start of a branching of that spike. So take it all the way down below the last node down here, if I may make that suggestion. And that is good news. Yes, Linda. Oh my gosh. Can you, that's my daughter. Can you hold on, please? I'm sorry. Okay, I apologize for that. Not her fault. She doesn't know that I do these every Saturday, or her schedule is so busy she doesn't remember. She was being kind, letting me know that she's okay, and for me that is super important. I did not want to just text her and say, I'm streaming. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Now, another thing that's going to happen is the welcoming committee is going to get activated, so we will be muting once she arrives and comes. I'm so sorry. Oh, to have a studio. A padded room. That would help me too on days that I'm not streaming. Okay. Yes, why? Oh, that is a great, yeah, it's all good. Everything's great. She's been out and about. She's still enjoying her vacation, which is great. She has a few days left, and I've got little chores for her to do before she goes and starts work again. And she's just letting me know. It's all good. Thank you so much, Bruce. I appreciate it. Thank you. Oh, this is awkward. Thank you, Sunnyside, for your patience. And Joe says, my Bellina and Violacia had leaves like this when I got them during this time of last year. They ended up dropping, but now they're making their largest leaves. Perfect. Happy to hear that. That is very promising and sounds very promising for Linda as well. DeAndre asks, why would the foul leaves touching a window be bad? Well, in the case that it is summer, even if the sun doesn't shine, if you're in a very hot climate, there could be a hot breeze, whatever, and the glass would heat up, even if they're double or triple paned. So the heat would be one thing which could burn your leaves. The alternative is, in the winter, the glass is going to get extremely cold. Touching the leaf, etc., with the glass, yeah, same kind of damage, except it would be a cold burn. I got a video about that as well. And it wasn't a window, it was a cold wall. So I'm going to put that in my notes. I will add that video in the description. DeAndre, if you would like to have a look at what a specimen Cattleya looks like after all the rot from one or two leaves too close to the wall continued through, it decimated 50% of that orchid. And there's a repot video to watch as well, where it looks pretty nasty, but she's doing okay. She's doing okay. So, that's the Orsterii, cold damage. And I will add that link in the description. Okay, you see, if I don't write it down now, I'm not going to remember. Are we going to get into this or what? Yes, we are. Yeah, well, it's just one of those things. We think we're doing our plants a favor, and suddenly we're doing more damage than good. Let me know. They're at the door. The dogs are at the door. If the barking bothers you, I'm going to mute. If not, I shall proceed as if nothing is going on in the background. The moment anything bothers you, let me know. Or another option is click out. I don't know how loud you can hear that. Meanwhile, I don't want you to click out, but sometimes there's not much I can do about it. Okay, we're going to go with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's see if these 5 will open. Oh, touching the window in those conditions is even dangerous for humans. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, this folder opened nicely. And I even got myself a reminder in here, which we've already done, but we'll get there. Okay, let's get moving. Now, I have an apology because I had saved this screenshot of Lauralee a little bit differently, and it didn't come up in my folder for the Q&As, the questions that I had saved. So, as a brief rundown, and I'm sorry, Lauralee, that I didn't honor this because I said I would touch upon it in the first stream that we had in January. Okay, as a brief rundown for anybody that doesn't know and wants just a little, in a nutshell, history about me and orchids, I say I'm 12. I believe I was 12 because at that time I was allowed to be around other families without having to be supervised by my parents, and I would walk to different homes, and they had, one of the gardens had a wonderful pink bloom, and it was just up there, huge bloom, and me and Pink, girly, la la la, loved it. And unbeknownst to me, the lady had it chopped, part of the plant chopped off, not with the bloom, but gave me the plant and told me to tell the gardener to take it to my garden and put it in a tree. This, by the way, was in Kenya. Put it in a tree. Okay. I took away this plant and my gardener went up and just tied it around with some string and put it in a tree. That one turned into many because that lady kind of spread the word that Nina likes to have these plants. I didn't know that I didn't know at the time I liked to have these plants, but suddenly many people were giving me these plants. And not now I know they were Cattleyas or a derivative of, be it hybrids, whatever. I wouldn't be able to name you any of them, clueless. Anyway, bit by bit, more and more of these plants came into a garden of an apartment complex, a garden that wasn't mine, but it turned into mine because I started to hang out in the branches of the trees or down by where we could plant them in the sandy, corally part around the base of a tree. And that's how my orchid growing thing started. I can't even say if I knew they were orchids back then. Probably the word was thrown at me. I don't know. I grew up multilingual, so many languages. I don't even remember the word until I got to Germany. And I had to leave all of that in the garden behind. And then I started with orchids with Phalaenopsis, which was a different orchid to me. I have not seen a Phalaenopsis to my memory in Kenya. And then I had to give up that collection. And then I bought more Phalaenopsis when I moved to Spain. And that's when I started to learn how to grow orchids in pots. Up until then, I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. These things were up in trees. That's it. That's all. Mombasa has very high humidity, from an average of 75% year round, and a lot of rainfall. So I never watered them, never fertilized them. My only biggest pest were the monkeys that would take the structures. Back in the day, they looked like bananas, green bananas, and they would take those, which of course are the pseudobulbs now, but they would take those, rip them off, bite into them, thinking they're bananas, and then drop them to the floor. So I had the rattiest orchids ever, but they grew and they looked really nice. And then one day I had a pink bloom, and it was just, I was more up in the trees than really down on the ground when not in school or at the beach. And in that time frame, because I was up in the trees, I was watching roots grow. So in my subconscious mind, roots became a thing, like a thing, obsessing. Like I'm still obsessing about roots now. It's understanding everything about them and why they stop, when they stop, how they start again. Is it the daylight? Is it the cold? Is it all the things about roots? And the subconscious mind is a powerful thing, and that carried over to Spain when I was growing in clay pots and bark, whatever I could cobble together, literally cobble together, because the media here is not orchid related at all. Back in the 90s, definitely not. And that's how I grew my orchids. Then in the 90s, then I had to give up that collection. Children, job, career, etc. Fast forward, here we are, and I did leca and self-watering because finally something came to the coast that I could source locally, and that was leca, and it didn't float. Finally, I found one, also a brand that didn't float. And then the experimentation began. Up until growing orchids in pots, I didn't see what the problem was. In a nutshell, that is where we're at. So I hope, darn the monkeys, right? And now I am cursing scale. And I would remember if I had scale, because I was up close. Sometimes I was lying on a branch, straddling a branch, whatever it was. I was very close physically to my orchids. And I would have noticed if there was white things on them, but I didn't. And I was always into bugs. I mean, Kenya and bugs, get me a stick insect, I was fascinated. Get me a big beetle, a rhino beetle, whatever it is, loved them. They looked like golf balls with wings, but black, you know? Just, I was into all these kind of things, creepy crawlies, and many times I was told, don't touch. What does this do? Oh, it squirts red ink. Yuck, it stinks. You know, that stuff. So monkeys were my biggest problem. Birds, not so much. Luckily, the crows, I mean, the crows went for roadkill or what they could find in the shambas, in the gardens elsewhere, be it mice, rats, snakes. Thankfully, I mean, we had crows for days, but no, it was the monkeys. You could see them. And then, boop, like, you know. Today, I would say if I had a channel, I would say, and the monkeys are back. And by the way, blue jays, orchids, I think, South Africa. When she uploads a video and has then the baboon, the monkey sounds in the background, love it. I'm reminded. Anyway, so Laura Lee, that is the history, brief history, and anybody else that was not aware at the time. So, the new orchid pollinator, absolutely, if they would just let them bloom. So the next one here is DeAndre O'Hare, different media uses. I use clay pots in my region of South Africa. What medium would be best? Also, what is the use of charcoal, leca, and pumice, and when would I use them? Now, I don't remember which video this was. Thank you, Bruce. I appreciate that. Beetles going for your roses. Yes. So I don't remember which video this was, but I picked this up because of the different media uses. If you're, and in general, if you're in an extremely high humidity environment, let's say even your greenhouse, indoors, your grow space, and you've got humidifiers going and you can keep your humidity at 75% and higher, including airflow, you want to make sure that you don't have as water retentive media in your pots as you would then need if you're in a very low humidity environment. Okay, low humidity with media uses like pumice and leca is ideal because all these water retentive media, including sphagnum moss, for example, or seedling bark, all these really high water retentive media, they create a microclimate around the plant itself. Put several of those pots next to each other, and if you take a humidity gauge, some kind of, measure hydrometer or something, put them in between the pots, check the humidity there, move that hydrometer somewhere else far away from your pot. In a dry climate, you should see a distinct difference. So, of course, now if there's a lot of airflow in a dry climate, you will be canceling some of that humidity out. But I've always advocated for the smaller the roots, the higher the humidity. With airflow, let's just consider the perfect conditions. With airflow, you would want to make sure that you're mixing your media, that the roots do not dry out too quickly, but the high humidity will compensate for not drying out too quickly. Your pots will stay damp longer, usually a sign also with condensation. Do not water if you have condensation in your pots, because with condensation, that still means there's moisture in the pot, even if your roots look silvery. On the other side, if you have the same orchid, fine roots, with very low humidity, and I consider 40% low humidity, including airflow, then you will want to make sure that your media accommodates the watering needs or the thirst of this orchid with very fine roots. And usually when you have orchids with fine roots, you can pretty much guarantee that they're thirsty. So you want to compensate that with your media by adding either sphagnum moss to retain a lot more moisture, or things like pumice and leca. Okay, so pretty much that is the different media uses. Now, I don't use charcoal because I'm vain. I don't like to get my hands dirty and charcoal stains, so I don't use it. But I have been told, and I have seen a lot of comments People use charcoal in their media mix in order to keep it sweet, as in the pH level extends over a period of time, keeping the media and the pot from getting too acidic if you're working with organic media over a much longer period of time, which delays your repot. I hope that all made sense. The purpose of us growing orchids in pots is to try and not have them disturbed again and again and again. Now, slipper orchids aside, they don't care. They'll just repot whenever you can, whenever you feel like it. But other orchids, and that's when charcoal comes in. There is no need, in my opinion, for charcoal when you're growing in inorganic media. All right, leca, pumice, lava rock. There is really no need for charcoal in just pure inorganic media because your media doesn't break down. The charcoal is only there to counteract any premature acidity prior, extending the lifespan of your pot so that you can keep your orchid in the pot for longer. Whew. Orchid Ninja Danya-san, hello, ciao bella. So good to see you. People in Florida use charcoal and lava rock. Yep, absolutely. There's nothing wrong with that. You can do that, but it's not going to serve the purpose with regards to the media getting acidic too quickly, because the lava rock won't break down. It might help with aeration, but it's not about the acidity and keeping the media and the pot sweet and not turning acidic too soon. I realize that my Oncidiums don't love leca, even if I use the small leca, while my Cattleyas phals and others love it. Is it possible? 100% possible, yes. 100% possible. Leca, I'm about to throw all my Oncidiums out, except for one. But we're going to do that as a spring video because we're just going to rip off the Band-Aid and I'll explain it then. But I'm going to touch on it here, Danya. Leca is a desiccating agent. So there's a fine balance with Oncidiums that have fine roots. My Colmenara is having a great time. She has chunky roots, so the roots don't get affected as quickly. But the moment you let the leca dry out a little too much, let's just say you skip a day, that leca starts pulling moisture from the roots, just like it is a wicking agent and pulls moisture from the bottom of the pot through the top, as in, if the leca is a bit too dry, which normally happens on the top, boom, it starts to pull moisture from the roots. So I have always said small leca, fine roots, and it works. However, there is sometimes it's just like, what went wrong here and why now? I haven't 100% figured it out because I don't have the conditions here to prove a point. I don't have the light, I don't have the heat, and that's 5 months out of the winter. By the time summer comes around, our orchids grow so slow, they don't recover from April through to November. So bit by bit, everything in my collection is declining, everything that has to come inside. So I would like to say that maybe in another 5 years, when my channel does the heavy lifting financially, we can start proving a point. And in the meantime, do what the Orchid Room did and put maybe pebbles, fine pebbles for fine roots. Do not let the roots start crawling around, you know, nice little go chest type pieces of pebbles, fine like grit as a surface layer so the roots go in, but they don't desiccate. And also, leca has evaporative cooling effect, which is most annoying. And even though, you know, sometimes some Oncidiums, they like a cool root system, and then there are some that don't. And this is trial by error. And if it's the evaporative cooling system that is killing the roots and not the desiccation of the leca of the roots, because leca went dry for too long, then heat mats. I would like to encourage people to get away from the cost factor of growing orchids, buying orchids, yes, but growing orchids that match their climate. So, but if you have it all together, Some oncidiums need heat mats in order to make it with leca throughout the winter because of evaporative cooling. All right. So that answers that question. I hope, Danya, and I'm really sorry it didn't work out for you. And I hope I'm going to be able to take responsibility of that with grace. Fingers crossed. Sorry. You're very welcome, Deandra. It's my pleasure. Thank you for a question that, these questions, once I pull them and put them in the folder, I don't revisit them until the stream because it also makes my brain work. Am I making sense? Am I not making sense? Etc. Oncidiums do need more moisture than Cattleya and Phals, yes. And you can really, even with heat mats, you can really lose the balance because the heat mat will at least provide condensation during the winter months. But look away, come back, and yikes, my leca is dry, and the same in the summer. So, okay, dommage. So leca is not necessary. Julian says, so leca is not necessary. Enough charcoal and log work serves as a reservoir for ions exchange and a surface colonizing fungus. Oh, that's interesting. So my oncidiums love a mix of bark, coal, and sphagnum moss, and leca in semi-hydro. Well, you have quite the variety there. And leca and bark, coal, and sphagnum moss. Well, I am so glad. I'm so glad you still have oncidiums. Birthday boy Joe says, my new Sarcopsis pot has a bottom layer of leca, which the new roots have already reached. One new leaf is 8 and the other one has 2 more leaves on the way. It's just repotted in November. All right, so you pretty much, from what I'm understanding, is you have a PET method. So you have the inorganic media at the bottom with a little bit where the root, you see the bottom of the pot is the last to dry out. So if the roots have reached that area, they're going to be fine. They're going to be fine. It's more what happens in the middle that is also the last to dry out, but the airflow is less than at the bottom. The middle gets a little bit more congested, and then problems can start. And the top, of course, if you've got very low humidity. Okay, Danya, that comment came through twice. Oh yeah, and speaking of comments, let me, before I go on to the next question, let me please say, if any of you leave comments under a video and I don't seem to respond, please write it again. I was so annoyed today when I had 2 comments that said, you didn't answer me, so I went ahead and I did XYZ. And another comment said, why don't I hear from you again? And I'm like, So I went and checked everywhere for these. I have no idea. I make a conscious effort to answer every single comment. And yes, I may be a day late, but every comment gets answered. Even if you throw a comment at me in a different language, I will use Google Translate to answer in your language. So that was upsetting to me. I don't want anybody to ever feel annoyed. So that eliminates 2 comments at the end of this stream, because I just remembered that right now. Please be pedantic. If you don't hear from me, let's say, on the YouTube side of things, emails is a different story. That's all about time management and being with Orchid Ninjas. So emails, give me some grace. But when it comes to YouTube, if you don't hear from me within a day, write the comment again. If it's urgent, write it again and write it again. And I will get the hint that you need an answer like now. And even if the video has nothing to do with your comment and your question, please, please be tenacious. I do not ignore comments, okay? If they're not vulgar, offensive, hurtful, or in any way, shape, or form attacking another viewer on my channel, I do not ignore comments. Other comments, yeah, will be deleted, because if you cannot behave on my channel, in my home, I'm sorry, I don't want that kind of atmosphere in my place. But anything else, especially these 2 ladies, goodness me, I felt terrible. Alrighty. Joe is mostly a bark, perlite, charcoal, little coconut house. Good stuff. Psychopsis love their water. The problem with bottom layer is that the middle gets saturated in water a lot more easily, 100%. I have a video on that one as well, where your pot is wet the longest, and that is usually the upper third, 30%, 30%, 30%. It's this part, the middle third of the pot in the center. That's going to be the wettest for the longest. Linda says you're the very best at answering if I don't get it. Thank you very much. Thank you very, very much. You see, if anybody clicks on my videos and has anything to say, even if they leave a heart or just say have a nice day or I'm here, no question. It doesn't have to be a question. Goodness me, the least I can do is respond. And I would just want to make that, if the ladies that are, maybe they'll watch on replay, and by the way, if you are watching on replay, then you know what? Please know that, all right? Just be persistent, I ask you. I don't know what YouTube does sometimes, but it's not always good. All right. We had our happy birthday to Joe. Yes, I put this comment in because, you know, lapsus. All right, so here we have Lynn's Fruit, 5240. So where are you? I've got 5 Stanhopias in the north of Barcelona on the coast. Beautiful. I hope you are doing well and your orchids are doing well. I think this was the first time I saw you in the channel. I've got them in baskets with coconut fiber and pine bark, but they're not flowering without this. When it comes to Stanhopias, top of anything and everything if you are not able to repot. Okay, so spikes will not make it if you touch them at a stage that's like this. They're still pointy and you still see a lot of layers that looks like a sphere coming out. Touch them at that point, they're gonna frazzle. That I've got the spike specifics in the description. Now they'll come out sideways sometimes and come up against the edge of the basket, and you're gonna do them a favor. You're gonna snip and break the basket. That's already too much. The spike will fail. If there's too much media, no matter how fluffy, how light, if there's too much media with the plant up here, here's your plant growing nicely and hanging over, and here's your pot. If your pot has too much media, spikes may try to grow on the outside, but they won't be able to make it through all of that to get through. If your media is light and fluffy with a shallow basket, like really shallow, then that spike will make it. However, it'll come up against all the mesh at the bottom of the basket, so you're going to try and cut that to release the spike, and the spike will fail. That's why sometimes I'll just let my spikes do their thing, even if they're coming straight up against the basket of my Stanhopea. It's pointless. Touch it, it'll fail. Don't touch it, you've got blooms all squished up at the, you know, but they'll still be fragrant for 3 days. So you can't, with Stanhopeas, you have to have the widest kind of basket. The pond baskets won't do, even if you cut slats. You can't predict where they're coming out of. And basically, a Stanhopea is going to create its own little climate, and some spikes are going to push through and some won't. And then, of course, there's the age of a Stanhopea. Mine came as a seedling and it bloomed year 3. It would have bloomed sooner if I hadn't had lava rock at the base of a basket, but I thought that was so cute. I went for cute and aesthetics instead of functional. So, Stanhopeas will spike very, very quickly. So if you've got a Stanhopea that you think should be blooming size, chances are it is blooming size. There's just no way the spikes can grow out of the media. Pixie, it's good to see you. I appreciate you. I hope you're doing well. Everything okay with you and your beautiful feline there in your picture? Bebe-san, I really, and you know what, I love it. And sometimes I have to go about my day and I see a new comment coming in and I'm like, oh, this is so nice. It warms my heart. Yay. You know, and then I sit down when I can and just respond to comments. I look for YouTube has a held for review section for any abusive, offensive words. Sometimes YouTube will put a comment that just has a lot of emojis back there, it won't show in the public side. It'll be held for review because it considers a lot of emojis spam. I'm like, just leave my emojis alone. I love emojis, all these pretty little pictures, and just lightens up the page, you know? So I check that every day. And if there is nothing there for me to approve, then YouTube just randomly goes, yeah, no, we're not going to show her your comment. It's just horrible, horrible. And to find that out after the fact is breaks my heart. Okay, so just making sure we're good. Yes. All righty. pH and TDS, DeAndre O'Hare. Muy importante. I can't specify that enough. At the beginning, it won't appear to be. Many people say, I've grown my orchids for 2 or 3 years. I've never fertilized. I've never used pH. I've never used a TDS meter. Orchids will survive. They're pretty tough, but you won't know what's going wrong with them if they start to show yellow things, or if the leaf tip goes black, or if they go red, the leaves go red, and it's not because of sunlight. There are so many things when it comes to nutrients and deficiencies, especially, and because of their slow metabolism, it'll take them several years to do really well. And eventually they won't do as well as they did before. So how do you analyze that? How can you troubleshoot what is going on with your orchid if you're not able to say, well, my pH is XYZ and it has to be XYZ in order for it to get calcium and magnesium, but my pot is much more acidic, so you might actually be fertilizing your orchids at the right level, but your pH in the pot is wrong. And that's why it's still getting deficiencies. I find this super important. And I know there's a lot of mumbo jumbo about pH and TDS, and it can be overwhelming for a beginner. And trust me, when I started using these gadgets, I thought, well, in the 90s, I wasn't fertilizing. My orchids were fine, yeah. But in 2017, when this collection arrived and I was starting to get used to pH and TDS, I thought, where have you been all my life? At least I can assess what's going wrong. And all of a sudden, I'm not having salt buildup for whatever reason I cannot determine, you know? So if possible, and if you have any questions about pH and TDS, I think I did a seminar live stream on that a while ago. But other than that, it's also linked in the description. And yes, it can be overwhelming, but I can talk you through the overwhelming part, and all of a sudden you're going to go, I am so sorry I wasted your time because this is super simple. Trust me, I'm dyslexic. The minute somebody throws numbers at me, my brain goes tilt. 99.9% of the time, my brain goes tilt. The moment that 0.1% my brain doesn't go tilt, I am so excited my brain didn't tilt. I forgot what we were talking about because I'm just having a brain fart. I'm just so happy I understood it. That's me. So I can talk you through it. And sometimes I may sound a little bit, like da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, but I'm taking steps so basic, so simple, so to the point where somebody's going, all right, can you move on, please? How stupid do you think I am? That could be your reaction if I explain something, but it is exactly the way I would have wanted somebody to talk me through it. So I do unto others the way I wish someone would have done unto me. It would have saved me a lot of time, headache, and frustration researching it myself. Okay, I hope that made sense. All right. Thank you, Danya-san. Yes, please hit the thumbs up. I really would appreciate that. Stanhopea means snakehead. I had no idea. So why isn't that the snake orchid? What are we talking about the Osteocladus as the snake orchid? I feel cheated. I had no idea. Snakehead. Who'd have thunk? I'm going to have a drink. I haven't spoken this much in the entire week. All right. Joe says, I think the TDS and pH meters are better for beginners, but also as a way to check how acidic the media has become. Truth. And also, super important, the moment you get a new orchid in, okay? You see that gunky media and you go, well, I'm going to repot my orchid. Been there, done that. Yikes, did I throw my orchids into setback. 2017, putting them all into leca. Mercy. My poor babies. Anyway, had I applied what I have in a video about how to extend the life of a pot that your orchid comes in, no matter how nasty it looks, by using pH, I can assure you I wouldn't have had my orchids set back so terribly. Trust and believe. And yes, I'm going to put some lippy on. No shame in my game. Whew, talking makes my lips dry. Bebe says, I've never used TDS or pH for years, but my orchids weren't thriving. They were okay. And they will be. Now I do, and they are so much better. Thank you, Bebe, for this comment. I appreciate, sorry guys. I hope that didn't hurt any earbuds. I appreciate that so much because, yep, it sounds like, oh, here we go again, pH, TDS, whoa. I know. I can relate. Okay, let's take the next 5 comments. 1. Oh, hang on a second. If I keep that highlighted? Highlight? Oh, let me see if that stays. Aha, it does. Palette cleanser. Because I was thinking, if I make a user error, I'm just going to stick with my comments and rattle through them and show all the blooms afterwards, but it's working. I think I can show you a beautiful bloom from Bob Bernard. Oh my goodness. He spoils my inbox. I cannot tell you. And I cannot tell you what the name of this bloom is, but I can share and we can all gawk and appreciate this thing. Not quite the pink that I saw for the first time. I said, oh, that's pretty. I like that bloom. I want that flower. Mimi Nataka flower. This thing is, these are the kinds of, when I sit there with my email, I'm like, ooh, indoor grower, has all the bells and whistles, everything's growing great. I'm not envious of his weather because you look out the window and, there's yay much snow, but that's not here nor there. It's this. Oh, when I have an Orchid Ninja one-on-one with Bob's son, I'm just like focusing on his words, but my eyes are going everywhere on his shelves. I'm like, I want to be able to do this again. So we're working hard. We're pedaling away like, calm on the surface, but like a duck in water. Oh, my legs are going like this at the moment. Isn't this stunning? I mean, come on. Can't give you the name. Maybe if Bob sees this, he will add that into the comments. By the way, Bob, speaking of, I've got more of your blooms, so there's more to come. Hey, there he is, Orchid Ninja Bob's son. It's good to see you. Thank you. So yes, I'm sharing this because how can you not? How can I keep this gorgeousness to myself? Anyway, I'm telling you. I just gave my secret away. Yes, I'm listening to what Bob says, and I've got these chameleon eyes going this way. Bob's in the middle, and I'm looking left and right. Speaking of which, Orchid Ninjas, remember, hit me up if you want a one-on-one. We've got that going as a perk. Doesn't have to be because you have a problem. Doesn't always have to be because you're a problem. You want to have a one-on-one? Let's talk. We can do this. Nobody's watching. Except you and me. Anyway, right. I'm going to stop sharing. Woo, I have been enjoying our one-on-ones. All Orchid Ninjas. I think they're fantastic. Oh, Pixie, yes. C'est moi. I'm glad you're still here after seeing that. Much appreciated. Thank you. Joe says we need an AI program to show us what possible crosses would look like. Wouldn't that be amazing? Hey, get on it, Joe. Get on it. If I had the funds, I would help finances. We could be partners and then we could sell it as part of a perk for Orchid Ninjas or just as a product of the channel. You are the developer. I am the financier. At least we could get close, no? I mean, some of the crosses that you send me with all the percentages of the parents, I'm like going, how is that even possible? How old is this cross in order for that to happen? Fantastic. Right. Is my comment still highlighted? Highlighted. Ah, we can close that one out. Yes, this is great. All righty, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm only going in sequences of 5 so that my folder's open one at a time. I don't have 5 all over the place. Ones are the best. Speaking of which, I hope you're doing well, Bob. I really, really hope everything's picking up. I'm squirming on my seat a little bit because, ouchie, I've got the ouchies. And I've got my sugar cane right here, right next to me. Or a nice video idea would be asking AI orchid-related questions to see how accurate it is, which I have. I did dendrobiums, I did cattleyas, I did phalaenopsis. I am still waiting to ask exactly the same question with exactly the same program to bring you any possible updated information. I did 3. And I picked this comment from Denise. Denise has been poorly, not wanting to mention too much, but apologizing to me for missing a live, that's just, no. Do not ever do that. It's a city bus. You come in, take your ticket, drive around, hop off if it's taking too long or the subject doesn't interest you. Let me just say in general, I am so grateful, not just to Denise, but in general, for anybody and everybody that visits my channel, whether you comment or not. I mean, if I have, let's say, in a first hour, 50 views on a video, and I have 6 comments, not the Orchid Ninjas to start with, but 6 comments, that means there's 44 people that didn't comment. I am even grateful for those that don't comment. So never, ever apologize, please, because I don't know how to receive that. But I've missed you too, Denise, and I hope you're doing well. All right? For you too, rest and rehabilitation, rest and relief. Isn't that what I said before? Don't know. Okay. And then here's another one. And Nightbot has one of my favorite messages. Huge shout out to all Orchid Ninjas. And I thank you so much for supporting the orchids and myself with your monthly pledges. Thank you. Speaking of which, I'm working on another platform, but it's doing my head in. The dyslexia is, the minute I look at instructions, I'm like, oh my goodness, I don't understand what I'm supposed to do here. I'm chipping away at it very slowly, but we were going to have another little platform for Orchid Ninjas, which will expand our horizons a little more, and you as a community can get together. So don't want to put it out there because trust me, this thing has been going on for more than 18 months. Now, I can't always sit down and focus on the how-to videos and to implement it for this platform that I'm planning. I can't do that. Every once in a while, I chip away at another question to get it sorted out, but it's coming, all right? So your pledges are being addressed and honored with more content this year and something new coming, which I hope we can all get used to together because it's new for me too. And this one here, feedback and all the things. Mona Fries, meine Mona. I hope you're doing well. Servus, schöne Frau. This is, thank you so much for sharing your orchid experience and knowledge. I wouldn't be able to do this if it wasn't for you. Okay? First of all, if there's one good thing that came out of the pandemic, it is me being able to connect with you. I can tell you the headaches I had learning about videos, this, that, and the other. Ooh, macho. But thank you so much for sharing your time with me all of you, because time is precious. You can't get it back. And when you choose to be here on my channel, my thanks goes to you. All right? So that's why I kept that comment, because it must be said. I do feel that I say it, and I hope that you receive it when I say it in comments, but I don't just say it as a thing to say because it's the right thing to do. I mean it. And when I'm typing, sometimes I have a smile on my face as I type, and I'm like, when I put in an emoji, that means something exactly how I'm feeling at that moment. Be it a cry emoji or whatever frustration, it's exactly that. That's why I use emojis so much, because everything gets lost in translation. It can be misinterpreted in a message. So there's that. Spending time with my ninja family and me too. The feeling is 100% mutual, and thank you for letting me know. How that is so encouraging. It is also so motivating. I am a loner. I enjoy my own company. I like being on my patio by myself. I like the process of editing. I like my solitude. But the feeling is mutual when I spend time with all of you. It doesn't take a lot for me to suddenly go from 0 to 100 when it comes to talking orchids, or even talking about other things when it comes to talking with you. All right? So there we go. Linda says, warm growing maxillarias, because she saw my maxillaria, cousin he's outside, he has to tolerate the cold winter temperatures, which he does. It's getting harder and harder the bigger he gets, because his care gets more challenging. Not everything reaches the roots the way they're supposed to. His extremities are further away from the warmth, what used to be the patio, the concrete, the terracotta floor. So he's, and I have been learning to get used to him he needs more. But if I give too much, we had leaf tip burn from the last season. If he gets too little, he'll have cold burn, because he hasn't got enough strength from the base up. So I don't know. I just don't want to be cutting on him all the time. For the time being, he looks a bit raggedy, but he's in full bloom. And this is what prompted this comment from Linda. Seeing your maxillaria reminds me of a question that I have about mine. Oh, how about we share? Should we share it? Go on. I don't like people reading to me, so why should I expect it to be any different from you? Anyway, Linda's is a hybrid between Maxillaria tenuifolia and Sanguinea. And last winter I only got one flower, but I wasn't surprised because I had only had a few months. I had high hopes for this winter, but so far it has only one flower. Okay. Everything that Linda is doing in her comment is correct. And with maxillarias, especially the tenuifolia parent, it takes several years for them to mature enough to produce more flowers. And from what I've noticed with mine, because mine is a compactor variety, what I've noticed with mine is that every bulb only has one spike, one bloom. And not every bulb will bloom. That's on mine, okay? Now, mine lives outside. The tenuifolia is okay, outside. Here we have a hybrid Maxillaria sanguinea, which is a warm growing one. So please don't think because mine are outside is what triggers the blooms for Maxillaria orchids, all right? Mine is a needs must situation, not because I want to. If I had an overhang on the west side that was covered and protected, that's where they would be during the winter, protected, so that at least I could keep an eye on them and not have orchids looking like they've been, something the cat drug into the patio backwards. But a maxillaria does not need, even the variabilis does not need a cool down in order to bloom. And when you have a hybrid like this, her temperature conditions and light are ideal. The only thing is they all take time in order to grow enough pseudobulbs to produce a single bloom. If that is what happens with all tenuifolias, I can only speak on mine. Mine took ages. And then sometimes if the calcium levels weren't enough, as was in the year 23 when mine bloomed, again, finally, because mine was already like this big. There's a big maxillaria. When it first bloomed, I had one. I'm like, oh, great. And then all of a sudden I had 10. Then in 2023, I had 6. I don't even think I featured it much because it was just like, now what? I didn't give it enough calcium. We've upped the calcium, 2024, I had another 12, 13 blooms. So the maturity of your maxillaria, the amount of structures it will grow, will also determine how many blooms it can get. Now, careful what you wish for, Linda. You've seen mine, my tenuifolia. But I'm sure you're going to be really pleased by the time you get 10, 12 blooms. And when that happens, please let me know. And there's another thing in general. I love your updates as well. When I got the email earlier from Linda updating me based on before, I was like, yeah, this is so cool. Because sometimes I can also respond to a question in comments and I'm thinking, was that helpful? Anything? Hello, anyone? Did it work? So I appreciate even your updates and not just the vice versa. This is a conversation. I call it interactive. You, me, back and forth. When I put the ball back in your court, just let me know. Did it work? What's the problem? What are we waiting for? Maybe we're waiting for it actually to happen, which takes time. Whatever it is, let me know. Thank you. Right. Did we finish this second section? Oh, we have one more. Okay. Just call me Debbie B. Hey, Debbie B, it's good to see you. Whether you're here or not, I hope maybe on replay, but yes, I picked your question because this is important as well, species versus hybrid. With all the funky things that we can do with orchids these days, the hybrids will always have an issue. So there's a lot of research that has to go into a hybrid. I'm not talking primary hybrid, although that has its issues as well. That has to be researched, just like what we looked at with Linda previously, with the primary hybrid of the tenuifolia and the sanguiloba. So I'm still trying to learn 10 names and still haven't grasped species versus hybrids. Okay, so here's the thing. It is a little bit obnoxious. Yes, this came from the video of what's in a name, about orchid names, etc. Now, this is as tedious a subject as pH and TDS if it doesn't fall like Tetris into your brain quickly. I did a seminar, live stream seminar on that, which is also linked in the description. It's about 2 hours long, so sorry, but seeing as it was a seminar, I talked a lot and showed examples and answered questions and all that. But you can skim through it to find what you're looking for. Basically, and yes, they breed hybrid orchids in order to get more blooms within a 12-month period, easier to grow, more floriferous, abundant, fragrant, and easier to grow because they're not as fussy. However, a species in my books, you know what you have to do in order to make it do what you want it to, because there's nothing messing around in the genetics. The DNA is what it is. So you can research a species and go, does this match? Does my temperature match? Can I do this? Can I uphold that? And if those questions are answered, I love my species. It just makes it more simple. Even I have a video about complex hybrid versus species Phalaenopsis, and I'm like, give me a species. If I mess up, I know what I did wrong, what I didn't achieve. Give me a complex hybrid. I'm like, it's in the word itself. It's a complex orchid. What am I supposed to do with this? So that's, for me, if you can start growing with a species. I know that hybrids can be more rewarding. They do things faster, but learning about an orchid species is much more reliable, in my opinion. Now, the blooms may not be as shouty. That segs in a great way to what I'm about to do with what's going on under my feet. Just a moment, please. Shouty, shouty. We didn't shout. That was the joke. I don't shout at my dogs because they think I'm barking, and then we start a whole ruckus. And between the three of us, nobody will know who's the wiser. Okay, there should be silencio. King wants to lie on Baloo's back and snuggle up, and Baloo is just not having it. So we need another cold night, then it'll happen. Stop screen sharing. Let's move on to another palette cleanser. Divine, divine. Let me just make sure I check which one I've highlighted so we can get back there. And that would be this one. Okay, got it. Got it. Let's share this screen and let's have a look at this bloom. Also, so generously provided by Orchid Ninja Bob Sun. Thank you. Can I cross my legs, please? Mercy. So much floor space. All right. Yeah, these fur babies, I'm telling you. And Baloo, bless his little cotton socks. He is such a darling. He just wants to be left alone. King is the one that... Oh, screenshot that. He comes in like, way, here I am. He's a small dog, but he weighs a lot. He's like Garfield. I'm not fat. I'm heavy boned. He's that. He comes in like, you know, a wrecking ball, and Baloo is like, leave me alone. And sometimes I have the terrace door open and King is waiting just to play with Baloo. He's waiting inside and Baloo is sitting outside in the portico like, when is this guy gonna leave so that I can come in? Because the time that Baloo comes in, King is all, here you are, instead of going outside. Oh, it's a whole thing. It's a thing. Now that I have my cane, sometimes I go and I play a little bit with King just to push him away, to give Baloo a chance, you know. I do the matador thing, but with my cane instead of a cape. But I digress. So here's a beautiful bloom from Orchid Ninja Bob Sun. Me likey mucho. These are my colors. This must be some form of a cerula. I love this so much. And the nose, very predominant nose. Her name may or may not have Cleopatra in it. Who knows? Who knows? Okay, right. Moving on swiftly. How are we doing for time? Whoa, we're already over an hour. I hope that's okay. How are we doing for comments? Whoa! Get yourself a little bit more of a refreshments. And I will try to... There we go. Sunset Valley Orchids, Laeliacatlia Mini Purple. If you were to take that into a show, Bob, get her named Cleopatra with a nose like that. All right, now we'll try to not go on too many tangents. Okay, share. Let me show you what I'm talking about, and at least you can get the pointers as well. Snow Louise, this is another thing I love about comments. I love the humor. Some comments come through. Wingman does that a lot as well. Robert Forrest comes through, totally left field, says something, and I'm like, wait, because I'm looking at the video, I'm looking at the comments, my brain thinks the two are going to go together, and it's like, whoosh, left field. I'm here like, oh my God, that's hilarious. So I love the humor with the orchid crisis. This is about what's in a name as well. Poor orchids. Born with one name, lives with another or more names, and then they die with a different name. Isn't that the truth? And even today, I think Joe, I think it was today, came and said about the leaf and the sheath of the video about the sheath thing. I think maybe yesterday, it doesn't matter, but when there's the leaf is the sheath, and he says, then they should be in a different name category because they bloom differently. And I said, please don't tell anybody that. The majority of us are trying to we've just migrated and gone back to Cattleya. We've just gotten used to it, taking these little ones out from Sophronides, calling them Cattleya. Just stop. Don't tell anybody, because we'll put them back into Sophronides and we're all going to go, at least, well, I would embrace it, because sometimes I have to remind myself about it's not a Sophronides anymore, but shh. let them figure it out for themselves. Mr. Kyle's Orchids, I so appreciate your time. Thank you so, so much for being here. And remember, I have not forgotten, okay? No pressure, no rush. Just know I have not forgotten. They were rabbit and badger hunters, yes. They were. Mercy. And this one is just like, oh, I would call him a bulldozer, except but he's a Baloo-dozer. He's not a bulldozer. Baloo puts up with so much. He's so patient, but sometimes he's just, I'm over this. Yay to King and Baloo. Yes. I better not say their names too much. Dimitrios, hello. It's good to see you all the way from Greece. I hope you're doing well, and I hope the earth has stopped shaking for you. Or maybe you're far enough away you don't feel it. Either way, it affects your country, it affects that area, and I hope everything's okay. I've been watching and hoping that things are gonna settle down. I mean, like, really, hope you're okay. The Sarnia, yes, the Sarnia. I know. Oh, please, should I delete this comment just in case anybody were to come and see it? Okay, the Pomila. The Pomila does it too, yes. And now that you've mentioned it, Julian's son, the Diana as well. The Diana does it as well. The leaf is shut and the bud forms within and then it opens. Push. I knew there were more. I knew it. There you go, Joe. There we go. Okay. Detailed easy orchid suggestion. Detailed easy orchid suggestion. Now I didn't hide. Oh, yes. Oh, wow. Okay. Easy orchids. When it comes to Phalaenopsis, I picked this comment because, oh, I hope this works. This one. I like it when you take me up on my, please put your experiences into the comment section, because if you've got an easy orchid, that is rewarding. Phalaenopsis Stobartiana crossed with Venus. If you have a suggestion, if you know something that's rewarding, if something has worked for you and given you a lot of pleasure, and you found that orchid to be easy, I know it's relative, but it's relative to you. That could make it relative to someone else as well. Spam the comment sections with what you know works well for you. Just remember to put in your conditions, your media, etc., and whether you grow indoors or outdoors, your temperatures, averages, and all that. Okay, and this is why I picked this comment, because we have a suggestion here from Laura Stansfield saying Phalaenopsis Stobartiana crossed with Venus is easy for her. It has the cutest little bunch of grapes in its inflorescence and tiny blooms with yellow and pinks and browns. She did send me a picture, but I don't have that anymore. Oops. Sorry. But I saw them. I did. I saw them. I don't dare pull up my mail now because everything is steady on the screen. I don't need anything crashing. So, Laura, if you're watching this on the replay or at all, I'm going to hit you up. If I can't find those pictures, I want them. I will make a community post and a reference to this stream. They are darling. Okay, and the reason also I picked this one is because it's fragrant. Who doesn't like an easy orchid that grows nicely and is fragrant? Like sweet tarts. The fragrance is like sweet tarts, the candy, and a hint of something else. Never mind, whatever that something else is, that sweet tarts and candy thing, that sounds divine. So there we go. Anybody interested to have a look-see, then that would be another nice suggestion for an easy orchid. Easy for Joe is the Dendrobium hibiki, which reminds me, Julian's son, the scary part about a hibiki is that once it throws a fit, it's very difficult to recover. Thankfully, I have two. Vamos a ver what happens when I bring out that spring video. We are going to have a look at the orchids as they come out one by one. I might even do a live stream and you can hear me cry, gasp, scream in frustration, whatever it is. I don't know. I haven't figured it out yet, but I When you gave that comment to me, I was like, yes, true that. Okay, no keiki. That's great. That means your orchid is sans stress, which is what we want. Okay, the next, oh, that's the wrong screen. Oh, I can close you out. The next one, see how many great comments I get, and I'm filtering your comments. You see how many we get? I think it's great. I hope that you like the selection that I do. I mean, this is just random how things inspire me as we get through the month, and then I just screenshot into the folder. I put my little pointer there because otherwise I wouldn't remember. You see, I even had to look back at Laura's comment to say, what was I trying to sustain here? Anyway, here's me again. Thank you, Joe. You say thanks to me. Actually, when I see a comment like this, I'm like, oh, thank you. I'm so grateful that you come here. Thank you so much. I mean, don't thank me. It's my pleasure. That. All right? Okay. Definitely. Thank you. Okay. Just call me Debbie. Left a comment as well. How do you pick the best orchid? What do you look for going to an orchid show? Oh, so she went to an orchid show. So I gave her a brief rundown. And I put the video in where I went to the garden center and filmed a video at the garden center, me picking an orchid. And ding-a-ling here had a brain fart because I was in a different location. I was too excited, surrounded by orchids. I forgot a very important point that I always look for, and I didn't do that in the video. I went the other way and I lost the orchid. Now, doesn't mean it's going to happen to you, but in a monopodial, always look, if you have more than one choice, that is, okay? So you have maybe 3 of the same or 4 of the same and you can pick. Don't look at how many blooms. Don't look at how many spikes. Just check that there is no terminal spike, for example. Now, when you compare roots, if you can, depending if the vendor is going to let you touch it, don't go for more roots because one has more. If you can find the combination of a monopodial orchid, for example, a Phalaenopsis, look for an active growing leaf in the stem. If that pot has less roots than the other one that may not yet be actively growing a leaf, take the one with lesser roots that are still looking lovely jubbly, but there's not as much of them, but take the one with an active growing leaf. It is super important because at least this way, there's the chances of stem rot are very, very slim. The chances of stem rot being in the stem without you even seeing it are much slimmer if there's already a nice little tiny protrusion of a new leaf, as opposed to the other one, which I did because, boom, brain fart. There was no active growing leaf. I went for the one with more roots. I lost that orchid to stem rot. And I lost it so quickly, it was not something that had time to manifest itself by the time I had the orchid here. So that's one thing. With sympodials, yes, the blooms are pretty. Look at the base. If you see black spots, even if the orchid is clean, there is a sign there that there were possible scale. Check and see if the orchid has active root growth. It doesn't mean the rhizome is growing active roots. It can mean that there's root tips growing. Those roots may stop by the time you take the orchid home. In 3 or 4 months, those roots have stopped, but that is acclimating process. But at least the orchid is showing active root growth, and by that time, probably able to carry over the acclimating process much, much better. Ideally, if you can, and usually vendors in decent shows will bring orchids with an active growing point. Sympodials will already have a new growth starting. Even if there aren't no active roots on that new growth, there will be in a much shorter time period than an orchid that doesn't. Stay away from anything that looks like a division and that doesn't look like it's steady in the pot. So you can tell a division because there's a cut at the end, distinct cut, and maybe probably just one long rhizome. Maybe there is a branch, depending on which variety of orchid you have. But a direct cut is a sign it was a division. There are no little itty bitty seedling bulbs showing a progression of growth. Stay away from those unless they are steady in the pot. I know it's very difficult to determine that if the vendor doesn't allow you to touch the pots, but if you can stare a pot down long enough, maybe a vendor will be so kind and say, would you like to have a closer look at this orchid? And you're going to go, yes, please. And then you're going to hold it and you're going to look at it and you're going to what? Don't jiggle it. Yeah, we don't want to be obvious. Don't jiggle it. Just hold it. You'll feel it. You'll feel if it's loose in the pot. Stay away from orchids like that. Yes, they've eaten. Okay, so there's that. Now let me go back. Hey, Stinky, by the way, Joe enlightened me and I'm very, very sorry. I'm very, very sorry. I got you wrong. So I'm not going to be too obvious about it because I'm embarrassed. Okay, but I got you wrong and Joe enlightened me. So it's good to see you, Stinky. All righty. I see comments up here. I'm so glad to hear that, Debbie. I am. Easy for me and rewarding in real life. Mayor Yamazaki with me. It blooms twice a year. Rinculalia Mayor or Mayor Yamazaki. Ragnar, I appreciate that. And thank you so much for being here. It's very kind of you. Blooms twice a year. I'm going to have myself a look, see what that one looks like. Joe says, when I go shopping for the Dendrobium spectabile, I'm going to be comparing about 20 different ones. You see that emoji there? Blur with the eyes. I mean, the comment itself would have made me smile. The emoji made me LOL. Laugh out loud. Anyway, I always get blinded by a plant I really want and purchase ones in... Is that... Oh, okay. Is that because you feel that you can rescue them? Or is that because that plant you really, really want and often that they are in bad condition and you buy them even if they are in bad condition because there's nothing else around of that plant in better condition? Because that can happen. Doesn't mean they won't make it, but it's going to just take a lot longer. It's not going to be as rewarding as quickly, but you've got a little baby charge that you can take care of. It probably took you to 45 minutes to decide on one, so maybe I'll end up with probably. Oh, and you were the only one there. Oh, well, there you go. This is yours to peruse. Nobody's side-eyeing you. Go for it. Take your time. I'm one buying at the moment to see if I can keep them alive. My ring Catleantha is doing funky things. Nina told me what to look for. And remember, you can always keep me updated, okay? I hope that the funky stuff stops because it's pretty easy. It's that it may not take care of the magnesium deficiency all throughout, but it'll stop anything progressing when a new growth pushes. All right. I seem to like the weird and wonderful looking ones. Absolutely. I mean, that's what orchids are about, isn't it? The blooms. Some are just so... I mean, look, when I started this collection, I was heavily leaning towards bulbophyllums. I was going to make this collection all about bulbos for the most part because, oh my goodness, the blooms. Now, yes, the smell turned me off, but back then I wasn't too concerned because, I mean, if they have to come inside for the winter, I had it all figured out over here in the back and I'd be sitting in the living room, you know, no biggie. But then I recognized that my humidity was going to be far too low, so the bulbo thing. But oh, the blooms, goodness me, of course, they're wacky but beautiful. And the evolution of those blooms, and well, that goes for the major part of the orchid blooms, doesn't it? But no, bulbophyllums, that's where, I mean, if you can handle a long rhizome like this, and then there's a bulb here and a bulb here, and well, I can't. Those should have been in the trees, and then we would have had, you know, probably the crows attacking them, thinking that they were dead flesh. The monkeys would have gone, you know, blah, stay away from me. The monkeys want fruit. My orchid fever takes over and I make bad choices. Yes, you're not the only one. You're not the only one. It's, let me just tell you something. Living on a very low budget is the deciding factor for me to have made less mistakes in the last 4 years. Not by choice, trust, because I would probably say, I can do it. I know how to do this. I just got it wrong, and I would have replaced orchids. Now, because of dealing with certain things and allowing my brain to compute, understand, and see if where I did something wrong, there I do have a list of orchids I may one day replace, but I will have a much better understanding as to what I did wrong. And sometimes I'm also very stubborn because I feel as though I'm going to prove this. I know what I'm doing. More often than not, I do feel I know what I'm doing, but my climate doesn't back me up on that. And then the balance is off, and then I'm fighting, I'm scrambling again, you know, calm on the surface, paddling like a duck on the boat, like that. But it wouldn't be so detrimental if everything would be up and running in the back, because that would extend my season to 12 months a year as opposed to just 8. So there would be so much more opportunity. But anyway, I hear you. Making bad choices, I can tell you that's only been capped because of my current situation. Otherwise, you and me both, stinky. Speaking of new orchids, what is everyone's favorite grower? I hope, Bebe-san, you're going to get some feedback on that. I would appreciate it as well. I don't care, just because I'm sat in Europe means nothing. Absolutely nothing. DeAndre concurs. We're all the same. Come on. I have no doubt that I would get a good one if I ordered Atatsuka in Hawaii, though. I've heard about those. Debbie says, Bebe, my newest is Volsciara Melissa Briand Dark. 2 spikes and gorgeous and so fragrant. Delicious. But mine, we're going to toss it. And you will, and I'll tell you why. Yes, they have lovely orchids. The ones from Hawaii usually do. Careful though. My goodness. I'm not going to, receive this the way I'm saying it, okay? They're in Hawaii. That tells you a lot. So you will get orchids that were grown in perfect conditions, not in a heated greenhouse per se up in, I don't know where, because they have to deal with winter. When we talk perfect conditions, we can have those also, like, you know, up north where Joe lives, for example. Those orchids grow pretty much out in nature with just a lot of shade cloth. I don't know the facilities, but let's just say there's limited necessity to intervene with humidity, etc. So when you get them, they will be perfect, but understand the acclimating process of those new orchids coming from conditions that only nature can provide for orchids, not even greenhouse, but nature did it. And they come into your home, and suddenly certain things start to happen. Maybe the leaf tip will die back, or the roots collapse, or whatever it is. It's because they've been taken out of nature and then thrown into this artificial environment that they're going to have to get accustomed to. And many times they're so far away, they will ship from perfect conditions through cold temperatures to reach the destination. So if your orchid coming is looking beautiful and then starts to look a little bit like, I'm not sure what I'm doing here, you may think that you're doing something wrong. You're not. It's just they've been stressed to the max. I mean, who wouldn't get stressed? You're coming from Hawaii and all of a sudden you're landing in Frankfurt and you're wearing a mink coat. That would stress me. So if you're coming from Hawaii and you're landing all of a sudden, and all through that you're boxed up in a package and it's getting colder and colder and colder and colder. Now, I know that they come with heat packs, but the heat pack is not throughout the box. The heat pack is in a corner somewhere or down below, wherever they put the heat pack. So landing from Hawaii in New York in a box in the dark, it gets colder and colder. They don't know those conditions, okay? I don't want to discourage anybody buying from any nursery in Hawaii, but be aware of the reality of what is happening to the orchids when they come to you, when Mother Nature was their primary source of care, and then they arrive and they're indoors and suddenly like, whoa, you know? Just keep that in mind. Sometimes If you're on mainland, it's best to buy from mainland nurseries just because they have that indoor greenhouse establishment thing, which kind of then matches your home and the travel distance is so much less. Or alternatively, you wait until summer. But what are we talking about? Hot temperatures, right? Very difficult. Spring and fall. Those are the kind of temperatures where transport from a long distance is going to be much more forgiving on your orchids. And we all know how shipping these days has become like back in the dark ages. I mean, I go back thinking about Kenya when it took 15 days to get a box of something from my grandmother in Germany. And I'm talking within Europe, though. I don't know how it is in the United States, but keep some of those pointers in mind. So Deandra says they may go into shock because of different climates. 100%. 100%. And heat packs, Debbie, I'm with you. I feel like now you have even more temperature fluctuations when the heat quit. Now you also have condensation in the box, and it's not good if cold, and it's not good if, for example, the transportation sequence stopped, was interrupted. The box is on hold. Oof. I don't know who it was, but somebody sent me a box. It was supposed to be a surprise. And I said, tell me now, because I was supposed to get it like yesterday or something. And it was like 5 days later. I said, I want to know now what's in the box, because I was freaking out. First of all, I don't want anybody sending me any orchids, even if they mean well. I put a stop to that a couple of years ago, made an announcement, made a video. So somebody said, oh, there's a box on the way, and blah, 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 and it wasn't coming to me. And I wanted to know, are there orchids in it? Because it was already way overdue. And I said to them, if there's orchids in there, please get the nursery to give you a refund. They won't make it. So I hear you. Thankfully, it wasn't orchids. But that was scary. The anxiety, it's just not worth it. It really isn't. Not to me, anyway. All righty. Just Call Me Debbie also said brought a new Oncidium and just found bugs all over the bugs. They look like aphids. And yes, careful when you're buying as well. I know the blooms can distract us, and when we think that we're in a nursery and nothing can go wrong, they wouldn't sell us an orchid with a bug. Well, my good friend Orchid Ninja Julie Sun just brought in, I don't know what plant from the grocery store, a fresh herb for whatever, and it had thrips on it and infested her collection. You wouldn't expect that from a grocery store either, right? So yeah, we have to be really, really, really on top of our inspection game when we buy orchids. But at this point in time, when you have aphids like that, the best thing is just take a paintbrush. Don't even use alcohol if you want to enjoy the blooms for longer, and brush those things off. And if you're not squeamish like I'm not squeamish, I just smash them in my hands, wash my hands afterwards. A paintbrush will do the trick and look up under all the crannies. It'll brush things out, because if you go in, well, you go in with your fingers, chances are you'll do damage. So that's why I picked that. Shipping and buying orchids, as much fun as it is, it also comes with like, why? Or then mislabeled, and you don't know that they're mislabeled until 4 years later when they bloom. Do you get a refund? Not in the orchid hobby. Incredible the things we do for this hobby, right? Okay, that one was very similar, so we're going to go, if we have time and if people aren't bored, I'll show you this bloom from Bob Bernard last, because we had a similar one before, but this one is unique, special. It reminds me of an Equini I was hoping to have, but it turns out my intermedia is just a plain intermedia, because I love the flares of an Equini. So once again, I don't know what this is, but gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. Beautiful. Okay, so they may go into shock. I hate heat packs. We had a little one. I'm struggling with those fluffy white bugs. Woolies and Afrikaans, mealy bugs. Mealy bugs, yes. And if you still have the blooms, DeAndre, then keep brushing away at those pesky things. Once the blooms are gone, you're still good in your climate, in being the summer. You're still good if you don't have the blooms anymore, or if you want to, even with blooms, take that orchid and give it a good shower. I mean, don't put it on high pressure, nice gentle shower and wash the whole thing off. Wash the blooms very, very lightly, touch them lightly, and give water, 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 water. You're still in the right conditions. I would not recommend that for anybody dealing with their winter right now. But, it might help to just get the majority away and then be ready with your paintbrush. Akatsuka orchids in Hawaii, 2 days on your doorstep, FedEx, never a problem. I should have seen this comment before. I would have saved all of you 20 minutes. Thank you, Bob-san. I appreciate that. Wonderful. Awesome. Hello, Leah Purdy. I hope you're doing well. I saw that spring is coming to Texas. That was a quick switcheroo from what it was a couple of days ago. I hope you're doing well. Thank you so, so much for being here. Hugs right back at you. So she is gorgeous, Sunnyside. She really is. She's like, hello. That flare, hello. There we go. Bob Sun says that's Brassolalia Feng Yong. Awesome. There, you've got the name. I love it when the source is in the chat, because I'd be here like, leave it in the comments, but no, we don't have to. We got him. The master root grower. Speaking of which, why not, right? Oh, not you. You're pretty, but we already saw you. Hang on a second. Okay, so the vanilla vine is a wonderful orchid. I think she's absolutely beautiful. And of course, Bob's son has one. And look at the roots. Look at this root, just because sweet dreams are made of this. I'm telling you. Isn't that sensational? I mean, if you look at the comparison, okay, so we have, so we have some, frazzled roots. That's normal. Here's a nice healthy root. And then this is Bob's root. I'm telling you, I love it. So this, you're doing well. If your vanilla orchid that is, growing in the house has the normal roots, you're doing really well. Good root, may not be an active growth at the moment, season-based, whatever, great root. Nothing wrong with this root either. Bob's root. That's insane. It's like, wow. Fantastic. Love this so much. Mean it. So at least I could share that. I did slide that one in. I wasn't sure if that was continuing. Yours died. Oh. Oh. Your manila orchid died, or all your orchids? I know it's cold there. I thought I saw you posted a video about spring. Did I miss you? Did I confuse you with someone else? Because it grows the vanilla pod that we use in our spices. Madagascar vanilla should be the best in the world. It's an orchid. And you're eating the seed pod in your cookies. Oh, you bad, bad cookie monster. The vanilla seed pod is the seed pod of the vanilla orchid. So there's that. You're welcome. Amazing. Could never grow that here. Oh, your vanilla orchid died. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. Oh, I was so afraid that the conditions caused a complete wipeout. Only I hope that the temperatures change. I hope. Okay, so let's move on to boom, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Excuse me. We've got I'm buying my time here because I don't remember which video this came from. But whichever one it is, it's linked in the description because I really scooch over. I took notes while I was picking comments. This time I took notes to make sure I get the videos in. And even while I'm trying to buy myself time, I don't remember. But maybe Bob will remember because this is a comment coming from Bob. Hi Nina, thanks for the video. No, thank you for everything. Cracking the roots for me goes hand in hand during repotting. Well, I'm not surprised. You've got more roots than orchid. You can put a pot on your head and you've got this whole fringe. I kid you not. I kid you not. Put a pot, one of Bob's son's pots, on his head, and he can't see. He'd have to take little clips and part ways so he could see something. All this curtain of roots. So anyway, I don't remember. Oh, this was my Renanthera, I think. Scooching the roots in the pot. I don't know. Anyway, cracking the roots for me goes hand in hand during repotting. I'll soak them and sometimes it works and sometimes it won't. But what about foliar spray with nutrients to hydrate the plant? Yes, it was my Renanthera sunrise video. Okay, so in my dry climate, that is what I do. You can mist for so much for so long, the roots will dry out faster, but the structure is still damp, as in the stem in a monopodial. It gets dangerous over a course of time, even if you are in a dry climate while you're trying to hydrate the roots. In my spraying container, when I go around my patio, there is always some form of nutrient in the blue one. Even if it gets diluted down to maybe 50 parts per million, I dare not foliar feed with more because of my dry conditions. So they're always getting something as I mist them. And especially during the warm months of the year, I go all over the entire plant because it's just easy and fun, right? But no matter, I can do that 2 or 3 times during a day. At some point, I have to stop because the stem will not dry out. And then, behold, maybe there is a summer where the humidity is a little higher. I don't have airflow, and that's it. The orchid is gone. All right, it can happen that quickly. It happened to me with some miniatures in 2023, and while I relished in the conditions, those orchids did not, and they left the patio. Anyway, so yeah, I always have something in there, and that is also why this time around I wrapped that hob filter material around them. Those roots will go back into some kind of very moisture retentive, maybe a bottle again. I'll just shove the whole thing in there. It's going to look nasty, but it's going to help in the long run until those 2 little keikis at the bottom grow their roots into the pot. If I can assure that that actually happens, I won't be so freaked out about my aerial roots not being able to serve the orchid. I mean, that's one thing. You can, in a high humidity environment as well, be very careful with foliar spraying because despite a lot of airflow, your orchid may or may not dry out fast enough because you've got high humidity. Now you've got water on your plants, you've got airflow, but the humidity is not going to get canceled out. Okay, so just be very, very careful with that. So stem rot, roots drying out, there's something has to give, especially with some mendacious orchids, and you don't want it to be the stem. I think just spraying the top of the pot with plain water promotes new root growth, correct? I've been misting the roots of a cactus that I have in one of those ceramic orchid pots. Okay, that is very true. I try to do that as well. And what I can say about that is now I have two keikis at the bottom. I call them plantlets. I say keikis because then everybody can picture them. And the Ascocentra is the Vanda ampullaceae, sorry, name change, is extremely slow growing. This orchid that you see in my videos has been on the patio since 2018. So those 2 only just started at the beginning of last year, and they are like teeny tiny little fans. I don't know if you can see that, but they're not even 2 inches, not even. So when I mist now, I'm holding a hand over to do my best to not affect those. It's a dance. I need them to stay alive. It's not easy at this point in time. So I just realized how lucky I am that my temperature stays so constant. I don't have to worry about frost or hectic cold. Thank you, Deirdre. Thank you. You're like sun lotion. I'm rubbing it in. You are very lucky, as is somebody out there in St. Thomas, St. Lucia. I try not to remember exactly where people live. I just know she lives on a paradise island. Sarongs and flip-flop 12 months of the year. And her dendrobiums are blooming all the time. And yet you still want an aphyllum. You know who I'm talking to. You will get your aphyllum, I promise you. But yeah, that is lucky. That is wonderful. You see, when I hear from people that live in paradise as well without temperature fluctuation, it warms my heart. I'm jealous. I'm very jealous. But it does warm my heart because I know the orchids are in heaven. And that's important, isn't it? Dear Nina, let me tell you, you are so beautiful and you look similar to my mom. Oh, okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Hey, Kelly's mom. Whoever, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. That's very kind and thoughtful of you, Leah. Thank you. Well, I do put myself a little bit together. Now, if you were an Orchid Ninja on 101, sometimes I come in here frazzled, looking like a plucked chicken and saying, hey, I haven't had time. You got the raw deal on a one-on-one. No, but I appreciate that, Stinky. Thank you so, so much. Okay, next up. Seaweed timing and metabolism. That was from Joe. I am so glad about this comment. I pulled this one because maybe somebody didn't watch the video, didn't pick up on that, and Joe was wondering when to start using seaweed extract. If you can, once you are familiar with your orchid and you know your seasons when your orchid is about to come into active growth, and about is relative because, again, our orchids have very slow metabolism. So for our orchids to be about to come into active growth, be it root growth or new growth, is 8 weeks. It can, excuse me, somebody's dreaming. I thought it was my stomach. It can be 6, but I say 8. So in terms for orchids, that's about to come into active growth, 8 weeks. And we can start to help with a hormone mobilization with seaweed when we know when our orchid is about to come into active growth. And that can then at least already help the orchid with some substance by the time the active growth starts. Once the orchid is doing her own thing with her own hormones within her own system, we can back off the seaweed eventually, before the blooms start, because too much of a good thing, you may get deformed blooms, too many hormones, or in some cases, depending on age, the lack thereof, it does funky things. Either way, it does funky things. So there's a time and a place for your orchid to have seaweed, and the best thing is to understand when is she coming into active growth, and then to help her along, and to always remember supplements are just supplements. They are not fertilizer. I like, and I find it very important to distinguish between the two. It's like I'm eating my fruit, I get vitamin C. But because my fruit, I can't have that many oranges or pineapple, I supplement with vitamin C. Same thing with CalMag, with calcium nitrate, with anything that we add as a form of nutrient that is not the fertilizer. It is a supplement and should not be regarded as anything but. I hope that makes sense. That includes quantity, okay, especially when we're dealing with hormones and seaweed. If you have any questions about this, it's the same as pedantic thinking of pH and TDS. It's exactly the same. Just ask, okay? I'd be more than happy to be talk more in circles for you. Sometimes I'm better when I'm writing things down. Okay, do we have another one? Yes, we do. New imports. This was very helpful to keep orchid plants alive. I bought new imported plants and did not know how to handle them properly. Yes, including plants that are at home being dehydrated. This really is more important as you start to shop and get new orchids. You get some companies that are coming in from Brazil or even South Africa to the United States or to Europe for orchid shows that are happening in March and April. They say newly potted up. If they're honest and open, they'll tell you newly potted or new import. And these two things, new potted, new import, will tell you whether there's media around the roots or not. They were brought in bare root because they had to go through all the processes and they couldn't have media around their roots. Everything is stripped from them media-wise and then shipped. So as we are heading into the purchasing and unboxing season, etc., no matter where you're getting your orchids from, if you're talking about bare-rooted orchids or even orchids that are looking like, oh my goodness, all you've got is like paper, then this video is linked in the description because I've rehabilitated many, many Rupiculus Laelius that actually thought, who ate you and got a stomach ache and regurgitated you, brought you back out and sold you to me? I had some real doozies. Some didn't make it, but many did. So that's why I wanted to bring this comment up, because I also appreciate the feedback that it was very helpful, and I hope that Ngie Pedam is going to be successful. And this is where I'm hoping for feedback, because if I don't know, I can't help. We can't intervene. It'll be too late. Doesn't mean that what I'm telling you doesn't work. It means that somewhere along the line something went wrong. Hit me up. Let me know before it's too late. Okay? Right. The black orchid you showed today. Yes. Oh, dangerous. I will touch on that when we bring her out for spring. You saw how the ends of the spikes were all curled like that. I'm sitting here. She was behind me in bloom. And by the way, it's not just cinnamon cookies. Consider your spicy ginger cookies. You know the ginger snaps? I don't know if you have them in South Africa that you can dunk into the tea. Love them, the little round thingies. That's what they smell like, but as if they've been topped off with cinnamon. It's just mind-blowing, beautiful, fragrant. And usually she blooms for me around the holiday season. She's extremely late this year, and I am panicking over that orchid. Thank goodness it's a Catasetina, but you'll see when we bring her out. She's not going to recover now, but I cut those spikes off within a week of all the buds opening, and I was sweating it here because I have never seen my Fred Clacchiara that poorly. Yeah, it's a shocker, but she'll be okay. I probably just won't let her bloom again next year. So it's going to be 12 degrees next, so maybe it'll still too soon for shipping. Yes, unless you get exactly the same service that Orchid Ninja Bob's son gets. Then, if it's a 2-day thing, boom, on your doorstep, make sure you're home to pick it up so it doesn't stay on your doorstep in the cold, and you'll be fine. Okay? Leah says, I'm an hour late. I prepare lunch and feed my baby. Oh, sweet. Oh. I'm not going to ask what's on the menu because I think my stomach is growling. I blamed it on the dogs before. I hope it's not picking up. I'm not hungry. My stomach is making weird noises. Okay. Ginger snap. Yeah, those. With a cup of tea. And then, but think sprinkle sugar. Oh, it's just magnificent. I tell you, as far as fragrances go, Fred Clacchiara nailed it. Nailed it with that one. Bruce Sun said, how about some instructions regarding how, when, and why to cut monopodial stems or sympodial rhizomes? Thank you for liking my videos, and thank you for your amazing friendship and support, Corazon. I picked this. I'm not going to talk about it because it is extremely, let's say, comprehensive. There's many variables, but 2 videos are in the description. And if you know your orchid, now's the time. If you want to propagate, if you want to unpot and cut divisions, if you want to not unpot and make a division while the orchid is in the pot because you want to have more space, you don't need to repot just yet, etc., 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 check the description because now is the time. Same with seaweed. We can trigger some hormones going. We can also start some little snip, snip, snip and get some orchid divisions, okay? And if you have any questions with regards to, after you've watched that video, let me know because there are so many variables. I think I covered them all. Not entirely sure though. So, check me on those. Right. We're going to stop screen sharing, and let me just say, for everybody that's here still or popping in, popping out, thank you so much. Thank you. I was about to be rude. Y'all, I do not drink out of a mug my iced tea. I'm just being very couth here on camera. I was just grabbing from my uncouth plastic bottle. Excuse me. While I remove Mr. Ribbit. But yeah, my iced tea doesn't normally go into a cup. I almost gave myself away. Something else that the Orchid Ninjas on a one-on-one already know. I'm here guzzling my bottle. The real deal. Alrighty. Next ones, we have 4 more to go. And then I'll show you the final bloom. Yeah. Oh no, I have 2 more blooms to show you. But let's just check out and see what we've got going on here with the final 4 questions, and then we can just do the gawk thing. Stare at the blooms. Stare at the blooms. Baby sun, Orchid Ninja, baby sun. This is my video from yesterday. Happy to see any sheath. Aren't we all? And I have experienced new buds peek out of an old dry sheath. That's the best part when that happens and you kind of don't expect it. Whenever I want to tidy up, I hear you telling me, leave that dried sheath alone. Yes, I picked this because I didn't. And we forfeited blooms of a first-time bloomer. I am so mad. I know it's been months since I did that, but it's like I can't get over it. I look at the orchid and I'm like, oh gosh, she could be in, spike. So mad. Leave your sheaths alone. Note to self. So yes, thank you. And I'm glad you put that in there. I had to pick that comment because it just won't let me go. I did it. And as I held the orchid, I had my snips. I went, yeah, don't cut. Yeah, but I couldn't stop the motion. I was doing it. I was like, oh, don't cut. I was like, did I? And then I was peeling at the sheath. Did I? Then I'm like, what are you doing? If there's something there, you're going to ruin it by poking around. So I left it. The whole thing. Oh, what a shame. Oh my goodness. Ragnar says, repotting can delay blooming, but I repot every orchid straight away to make sure there's nothing rotting. No snail slugs, no sponge left in the center. All right. Repotting can delay blooming if we don't repot at the right time. And usually we don't repotting at the wrong time, in my books, is if there's no active root growth. I will set an orchid back tremendously, and that is the reason there's a delay in blooming. If we repot an orchid that is blooming size with active root growth, unless the orchid has to re-establish a substantial new root system because of the structures being so large, the blooms being so energy consuming, the orchid will bloom like clockwork, whether you've repotted or not. I can vouch for that when it comes to Cattleya purpuratus. Active root growth, repot, boom, she will bloom the following year. What doesn't happen, for example, in my experience, is with a Cattleya Dinard, because of the size of those growths and the size of the leaves, the size of the blooms, the whole energy thing, if a Cattleya Dinard has a proper root cleanup, which I do every 3 years, in my experience, it will not bloom the following year because of all the new roots it has to grow. So as much as I appreciate, I'm just going to push back a little bit on that comment because I've seen it said a lot. The timing of the repot and the amount of a root system an orchid requires in order to bloom determines whether there is a delay in blooming the following year after a repot or during a repot. And I hope that makes sense. Now, imagine you have a bifoliate hybrid that just blooms and blooms out of its vigor and everything. When are you going to repot that? You know, when do you repot that? It's got to have active roots. It could be in bloom at the same time, plus pushing a new growth, and also be in bud, because the complex hybrid Cattleyas are made to do that. So, and that's why I say, if you've got something that you need to repot, it could be in bud, it could be in bloom. If it's got to be repotted, repot it when you've got active root growth. And yes, some buds may blast, but you will not forfeit the sequential, the constant blooming cycle because you have not damaged anything, let's just say, with regards to the continuous access to nutrients and hydration because the new roots are already on the way. I hope that makes sense. And this is especially important for brand new orchids. It's so hard, trust me, to not go in there and say, oh, I need these roots to be in my media. And it's hard when you're not sure if they're snails or not. But if you can, for example, put the pot in hydrogen peroxide 3%, give it like a 3-minute soak, take it out, flush it through properly. Snails or whatever, either they will come crawling out. That'll give you a signal that there are snails, and you may need to repeat the treatment in 3 days. I wouldn't do it successively. I would just check. If you're not sure that there's snails or snail eggs, get a container, hydrogen peroxide 3%, soak the pot in there, check if anything starts coming out, and you may find there are no snails and you have not disturbed your orchid. You flush your pot and then you wait for new root growth. If something starts crawling out of there or starts to dissolve because of the hydrogen peroxide, you will repeat the treatment again and then flush, and then you wait for new root growth. That is the advice I give on my channel, because setback is the worst. Watching setback happen, for me, that's the worst. Forfeiting blooms, I don't know. I mean, if it works, I hate to intervene and interfere with anybody's growing habits. But if somebody asks me for advice, then that's it. There you have it. That's what I say. Joe says, I have been the same way with my new orchids, except for the Psychopsis. I had to wait for new, and that would just to be sure that it would survive 100%. You see, DeAndre, I knew about dried sheaths. Don't cut. Seriously, that motion, done. Brain and body did not communicate fast enough. The signal was a little bit too slow. The damage was done. Yeah, I also repotted in immediately in the beginning. Let's just say we don't know each other and you come and you're telling me or you're asking me. What I just said is the advice I give right out of the gate. And like I said, if somebody says that in their videos, I don't go into the comments and say, blah, 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 blah. I don't. That person said that in the video. That's their information. That's fine. That's fine. That works for them. Perfect. They're sharing what works for them. So I'm not going to go into the comments and say, yes, but nya, nya, nya. But if somebody comes to me and asks me that question, then you just had my answer. Now, if somebody comes in and disputes that, then we have a dialogue. Now let's talk. And I mean that in the sincerest way, because it's not my way or the highway, it's the orchid's way. And what do you want to achieve with the orchid? 6 months, 8 months, 12 months, 2 years. What size is your orchid? How long have you had it? What's going on? What are your temperatures? Can you do? Let's talk, okay? So that's why there's a lot of mixed information, many mixed tips, many things that contradict each other. But if you come to me and ask me a question, I'll tell you what I do. And I'll tell you where I failed, and I'll tell you how I improved it, and I'll tell you if I didn't improve it, why it's bugging me that I can't improve it. And I'll also tell you why I say what I say. Because I can say step one, this, step two, that, but I'm the kind of person who's like, why? And somebody explains something that makes logical sense to me, the chips fall into place that much easier. So, c'est moi. Joe says you could water with hydrogen peroxide 3% the day after normal watering. Yes, but if you water, yes, but your media is still wet, which dilutes the hydrogen peroxide, which makes it less effective. Hydrogen peroxide 3% in dry media. Done. And then flush, and then water. Diluting hydrogen peroxide 3%. What is it? 1.5%, 1%? Is the media drier somewhere and it's getting 3%, but down there in the pot it's getting lesser of a concentration? You see where I'm coming from? Don't. The pot shouldn't be wet. Face turquoise covering eyes. I'm gonna. Oh hey. Okay, Leah. Did I say something? I don't want to offend anybody. I really don't. I don't. I can only stand by what I know to be true, has proven true. But anyway, Agnes, oh yes, these are the last two comments. We addressed them at the beginning. We're at the end of the Q&A. At this point in time, I have two more blooms to show you. But this is where I'm saying once again, Agnes and Andrea, ladies, don't hear from you anymore. Why? Wow, I almost bawled my eyes out. When I saw that, I thought, no, I've got a stream tonight. I can't come up showing all poofy and red-eyed. No, please, be tenacious. If you think you're not hearing from me, it's not because I am doing nothing. We covered it at the beginning, but these were the two comments I needed as a reminder for myself at the end. Okay, now we're going to look at the bloom. Well, first of all, there are two that I want to show you. There's one that's extremely similar to the one that we already looked at, but this one has a yellow throat. Well, more of a yellow throat than the other one that we saw, and it's stunning. It's absolutely stunning. Hey, you just want to pucker those lips. It's like, I don't want to kiss you and smell you and just touch very gently. Can you imagine? You have to resist to go. So good. So good. The orchid could absorb the hydrogen peroxide if it's thirsty. Then up the concentration if you're worried about that. Joe, if you're worried about hydrogen peroxide, once it's finished doing its thing, it becomes water. So what is it absorbing? Water. Hydrogen peroxide goes for the organic matter, or whatever it is, cretons, whatever. But what's left is water. So whatever the orchid absorbs, that is part of the component, the hydrogen peroxide. Once it's done, it's water. Literally, you wouldn't need to flush the pots even afterwards. I just do it as a safety measure. I also recommend it as a safety measure because if you're familiar with hydrogen peroxide and what it does in pots, the fizzing, that freaks me out. I mean, that action, it actually freaks me out. And I know it's just turning into water. You could, afterwards, it's water. So that's what's being absorbed as well. But I still flush. And that's why I say flush. Somebody may say, what's the point of flushing? It's going to turn into water anyway. I'm like, you're on my channel. Please flush. Just, you know, some things are just, I just feel better, whether they make sense or not. So that's my take. Or in that case, then I would go with a higher percentage of hydrogen peroxide after watering so that you get the 3% in order for it to be effective. Ooh, poops. Now we're having a dream. That wasn't me. Okay, I have one more bloom to show you because purdy, and I lost this orchid. And oh, not you. She really wants to be in the spotlight. This one, the one with the flare. She's like, it's me again. But I want to show you Dendrobium Lori Mortimer because I lost mine. Now mine was supposed to be the Dendrobium Samarai, but she came mislabeled. So that was unfortunate. Then she bloomed to this. This is the first time blooming of the Dendrobium Lori Mortimer of Orchid Ninja Bobson. And gorgeous, of course. When my supposed Samarai came in, she also looked like the cat had dragged this thing in backwards, half digested. But we did bring her through. We did get her to bloom, but then my conditions were... The evaporative cooling of the leca was the first thing after not using heat mats during the winter. And then thrips came because by that time she was weak. We got her back to growing some new growths. And this winter I'd had enough. I believe even moving into this winter in November or the fall of 2024, I already said, yeah, no, I'm not having it because if she's this weak, she does have thrips on occasions and I can't have that in here. At least what's going on here, it's got to be pest-free. My Naphrix Alex Poli is giving me a headache because I can't reach it as well. If you don't know, I've got a friend here, helps me walk. I'm struggling really bad. So, but what I can see around my Naphrix, it's only the Naphrix. Stay tuned for that video in about 8 weeks. So you might as well subscribe. Thank you. I better stop laughing. Laughing and drinking never goes well. The other day I was sitting, I don't know what, I was watching a stream or something, and I took a sip of coffee, and just now, like laughing coffee, I couldn't. I went with my cup to the kitchen like a baby. There's certain things you shouldn't do, not at the same time. The antelopes are amazing, absolutely amazing. Sorry. If you can keep your temperature steady, nice and warm, beautiful orchids. They can grow quite big, but you get some little mini ones as well. Stunning. So Julian S. says, the idea is to not let the peroxide go deeper into the roots before being neutralized. And usually they don't because there's so much organic matter around that's taking up all the activity of the hydrogen peroxide that it doesn't happen. If you were to put a bare root orchid and chuck it into hydrogen peroxide, well, yeah, I see the concern, and usually at 3%, because some people treat their orchids with 6% hydrogen peroxide. It's not uncommon. I'm just not, you know, me and chemistry, we don't go. I would rather do a little bit more often as opposed to a one and done. I'm the walking, talking life example of Murphy's Law. If it's going to go wrong, it's going to hit me first. So I always err on the side of caution. Leah says, I rinse the hydrogen peroxide after it's fizzing. Done. Perfect. Because in my observation, it burns the aerial roots. Because there's no media around the aerial roots. What it's going is going for organic matter. So I see your point there, 100%. And if you're dealing with something that's in a pot, but you've got aerial roots on the outside, miss the aerial roots first, but deal with the pot with a full concentration. Protect your aerial roots somehow, paper towel, whatever it is. You know, you can protect them, be it with your hands and just do a little bit here, la la la. Or if it's an aerial root, you soak the pot with the 3%, it won't touch the aerial roots. The hydrogen peroxide will activate and do its thing on organic matter, and usually by the time, what we're trying to do is get rid of snails and snail eggs and just hit them hard enough that whether they dissolve or partly dissolve doesn't matter, but it buys us time. Joe says potato skin or lettuce can also bring the snails out 100%, but it will not take care of any eggs. So there will be snails on snails on snails. Beer. If you want to share your beer, your snails are going to love you for it, but it won't take care of the eggs. DeAndre O'Hare says, I have an antelope cross that looks like it's going to make a spike. It looks like a weird pimple. That's interesting. Is it at the end of the leaf? At the end of the growth? So the last leaves are like this and there's a spike coming out and it looks like a weird pimple? I've never heard it described like that. But I can see it. I can see it in my mind's eye. I wish, Bebe-san, you and me both. You have two giant samurais that we can't be friends. I'm kidding. I would struggle with two too. That's why I don't have a Shari baby. Because I thought, when I saw what my Colmenara Masai Red did, I was like, where am I going to put these? Meanwhile, okay, the Colmenara has to fend for itself somehow in the outdoors. Somehow. But back then I was thinking, back then there was hopes for my growth space and this and that. I was already thinking very logically by saying, yeah, no, I'm not doing a Shari baby, but I can understand two samurais. They're going to do your head in. Oh, but I am envious. Please send me pictures. Please. Oh, there we go. Debbie, you've got to take her. All right, you two need to connect. Oh, it looks like that. That's great. That's exciting. That's awesome. I have never heard it described like that, but I can see it. That's awesome. All righty. Well, 2 hours and 20. Time flies. Time flies. Whoa, it's 10:30 at night here. Good grief. My goodness. I hope that you enjoyed this. The Masai Red changed the name too? It's not Colmenara anymore? It's not Colmenara anymore? Okay. Before I go, I can read typo. Sometimes. I've gotten pretty good at it. Because it happens to me all the time. Some of these little touch screens, I'm typing away feverishly. That's why I cannot reply comments on a phone, because autocorrect things, it has to say something. And orchid names and autocorrect don't do very well. Hint, Dendrobium Victoria Regina. I let your imagination do the work. And it can cause for some seriously awkward situation that has me blushing and apologizing for years to come. And it's not Masai Red either. I don't want that orchid anymore then. The only reason I bought it was because of the name. I mean, I love the orchid, please don't get me wrong, but if it's not Masai Red either, I feel gypped. Stinky, I appreciate that feedback. Thank you. Thank you very much. Ooh, that would annoy me. I see that orchid now from where I'm sitting. And I see the red throw that they wear, the Maasai warriors, the pride. I take pictures always. I have so many pictures of the way the buds are at the top because they remind me of the spear. It's just perfect. And somebody dared to change that name? Listen, your little dolphin, congratulations to him. Thank you, DeAndre, for making it happen that you were here. I so appreciate you. Oh, so happy to have you around. And yeah, I hope that you have another beautiful day tomorrow. That's great, Danya. I'm very happy to hear that. Now, I do want something just before we do go. I have a question. I should have asked Fernanda back when we were practicing this, because a lot of this is I could do at the time I wanted to and start to, because Fernando was my guinea pig. Okay, I have a question. I have this very cheap mic here, but I want to know if it makes any difference. When I lean in closer like this, do I sound clearer and less tangy? This is clearer. Now, I'm not going to sit here during the live streams doing this all the time, but if the audio is better when I'm closer to the mic, as opposed to, I'm moving away now because do I sound more like I'm sitting in a tin can? Is this too hollow of a sound? Is it better when the mic is closer, or does it just get obnoxiously loud? As opposed to like this when I'm talking the way I would talk when I'm doing a video. Question, I just want to hear that feedback. And option number 3, it makes no difference where you are sat because it's a cheap mic. It doesn't do what it's supposed to do. That's option number 3. Be honest. Colmenara doesn't exist. Odontoglossums are now oncidiums. Closer is better. All right. So I always have it to my right. Okay, so now I have the mic in front of me. It's very dangerous. I'm going to have to get used to this because, as you can see, I'm directing airplanes and parking them as we do our streams. I talk with my hands. I'm surprised that the Learjet is over there and not in front of me. I must be doing something wrong. But okay, so it's right in front of me now. Ugh, you can see it. Is this better? Does this make it's just clearer? So it sounds like, so I'm not as much in a tin can with the mic in front of me. Oh no, I can't upgrade, baby. Oh, I can't. Oh gosh, I have a mic that I've been side-eyeing since day one. Oh, ooh, I would sing to you in that mic. No way, I wouldn't. I can't. But now the mic is like in front of me, that much of a distance. Is this better? Sounds less tinny, less echoey? Ragnar, thank you so much for being here. Just one last question. You prefer the way I was talking? Is it too loud now? Better with a closer mic? Does that make it also louder? I'm going to have to talk to you, Fernanda. I feel bad doing this to all you wonderful people on a Saturday. Fernanda, maybe we need to hook up so I can shout at you through the mic and just kidding. To figure it out. When the mic is at the center, it sounds perfect. Oh, thank you, Danya. You bring joy to Spain. You do. Trust. Okay, so I'm going to try it more in the center, but not talk as loud. Maybe that's going to be the option. Maybe I can talk like a normal human being instead of sounding like I'm trying to convince the neighbors that orchid growing is the thing to do. It's a midnight miracle. Nothing good happens at midnight, ever. Julian. Not you. Not you, but... Well, that explains why, as a matter of fact, it can live outside. I forgot all about the odontoglossum. Why, Julian, did you have to break this news? Nothing good happens at midnight. There are no such things as miracles at midnight. No. Oh, I'm going to write it down. I better put Masai Red underneath because I'm going to look at this tomorrow and go, huh? What's that? Oh, no. Jamais. Not on my patio. It is Colmenara Masai Red. Mais oui. Jamais midnight miracle. What is that? I'm kidding. You see, I get a little bit cuckoos. Maybe you'll have some. Debbie is my friend. Yay! Oh man, yes, we're gonna talk as if we're face to face. All right. Maybe I'll have some good news on the next stream. Maybe no, we're not gonna have new problems. We're not. We're gonna think, yes, it's the RHS. I know, I know. It's gonna. I'll forget. Okay. It'll always be Massa Red to me. Always. I'll say Massa Red and put the real name up on screen. I'll just ignore. I shall just ignore. Poo poo. There's no midnight miracle on my patio. It is Massa Red. Sackable. Okay. I want to thank you so, so much. Like, really thank you. It has been a pleasure. And I hope that you have yourself a wonderful rest of your day as opposed to us in Europe. Have a wonderful Sunday, beautiful evening, relax. My patio, my rules. Done. Okay, I'm teasing. In case, yes, I hear you. You're right. Julian, you're right. I agree. I'm not disputing that. I'm now really I am disappointed. I cannot lie. I am, but I'm trying to get over my disappointment by being stupid and trying some humor and fake. That's why I was never a stand-up comedian. Alrighty. Hound hearts, thank you all so very much. Whatever it is that you do, make sure you do it well and make sure that it counts and make sure though that you stay safe. Take care. Bye.